Yeah, okay. Sorry. Don't tell me when you're recording.
Go for it.
Okay. Hi, and welcome to Chess in the Time of Corona. We're delighted to welcome onto the show Jon Levitt, who is an English Grandmaster, who is also a chess problem composer, and he's written the book Secrets of Spectacular Chess. We're delighted to have you here today. Welcome, Jonathan.
Welcome, Natasha. Thank you. It's nice to be here and nice to see you again after a while.
Yes, we've known each other for many, many years. And I remember playing in tournaments with you, not just last century, but a decade before that, like in the 1990s, early 1990s, and probably the 80s as well. So it's really good to see you. Can you tell us a little bit about your chess career and the highlights of your chess career?
Yeah, okay, I studied maths at university. I became a master at that time probably about 1984, I think. And I turned professional after leaving uni and got the GM title in about 1990. I was probably at my peak, just over 2,500 strength. Maybe my English rating was 240 something, I'm not sure.
Very good.
Exactly.
And what led you to problem composing?
I'm not sure exactly what caused that. I mean, I've always found chess very beautiful. Certain positions, ideas, the flow of tactical sequences. I mean, it's difficult to know what attracts people to chess in the first place, but I think that aesthetic component is something that keeps them playing because they want to keep producing something beautiful, ultimately. The success alone is not a sufficient motivation. If the game didn't have some kind of aesthetic draw, if you didn't feel that you could create something lovely, I don't think people would play chess quite the same way or would play it at all in quite the same way. So I think it's a very important component of the game.
Definitely. And do you still do problem composing and chess playing now?
I don't really play much anymore. I play occasional blitz games with a friend who comes around to stay every now and again. I play a tiny amount online, very little. The last tournament I played was probably 4 or 5 years ago on holiday in Italy for a week.
So what do you spend your time doing now?
Professionally, I'm fully employed, I would say, betting on live cricket.
So you're a professional gambler?
Yeah, you could use those terms. I don't really see it as gambling because I do a lot of it at the low levels. It's not high stakes stuff, and it's consistent, and I earn a good living doing it. And it's
I think you've got a head start with that being a chess player because you can kind of work out the next moves and and hopefully you get an advantage.
I think the chess training I did probably is important in psychological terms of just being used to kind of battlefield of having to make quick decisions under pressure, trying to stay calm when things go against you. That sort of element is very important to being a professional betting person. Okay, I've got some skills which might be useful for betting, like good mental arithmetic and good decision making, I think, and pattern recognition may be important. I'm not sure exactly what makes a person a betting person. I'm not sure exactly what makes a person a good chess player, but there are common traits in the two.
But I guess something like being objective about the odds and the chess position. That's coming into it.
Yeah, you've got to be fairly ruthlessly objective to be good at either discipline. So that's it. What's important is to analyse the mistakes and to learn from them, and to, as is the case with chess, you not always doing the right. You win either. Sometimes you're just lucky, and you've got to recognise. Important not to think that just because you win, you did right.
Yes, yeah.
I don't understand the reality of betting and the reality of what's going on in your head and the way they kind of interrelate. And that's true of chess too. If you want to kind of learn to play at your best, you need to really quite understand yourself quite well.
Yeah. And how old are you now, Jon?
Excellent. I'm 56.
Yeah.
57 June.
Yeah.
57 June. So,
Yeah.
born.
We're talking on the 18th of March 2020, and we're all in the UK. The big story at the moment is the coronavirus and the fight against the coronavirus. How's that situation? How's that situation affecting you?
Yeah, not happy about it, as presumably is the majority of the population. I have some health issues, quite significant health issues, in that I have an arthritic condition called scleroderma, which has also affected my lung capacity, possibly by as much as 50%. So I'm not in a very good starting position if I catch this bug.
So you're being careful.
As careful as I can. Possible to eliminate risk. I reckon if I get it, then I might have as much as a 10% chance of dying from it. So I'm taking it quite seriously because I care about my life, and I still do. Then I have to improve my chances as best I can, as does everyone else.
And day to day, are you able to carry on your betting?
Actually, all cricket has been kind of stopped right around the world in the last couple of days, so I'm unemployed and unemployable at this moment. I'm fine financially. I've done quite well over the last few years, so as long as it doesn't last forever, and assuming I last long enough, I'm not worried about the money side of this. It's more of an existential threat, I guess. So not just to me, but obviously to loads of people, and what it's going to do to the economy and the world in general. It's not going to be good. That's the best possible outcome. If they got a cure tomorrow, I think the economy is going to be suffering for maybe 3 or 4 years, and that's not going to happen. The cure tomorrow, so it's going to be a very serious, historic downturn for humanity and civilization, I think.
Well, obviously, we wish you all the best. Imagine we're going into then coronavirus self-isolation, and you're just allowed to take one chess game or one chess problem with you. Which one would you take, and why?
Yeah, I'd rather take a book with lots of positions in it, Natasha Regan. Some new stuff to look at as well. But of the stuff I've seen, I've always had a particular regard for a study by Vladimir Alexandrovich Korolkov. It dates from the middle of the last century. I think he composed it. Well, he won a composing tournament in 1951. Do we have a means of showing the position?
Yes, we'll show it.
We certainly do. That's going to come right up.
And very briefly, why did you choose that one?
It always struck me as a very beautiful study. It's not got much. The play swings across the whole board from the kind of southwest corner right up to the northeast corner, and there's a beautiful base at the end. And it's dynamic. It's kind of the movement of the study is stunning, I think, and the finish is good, and the play is there's enough depth and complication to it to make it interesting and not obvious, and the flow is very beautiful with the study. So
let's move on and see the study.
Okay.
The study.
Okay, so here is the starting position of this Korolkov study. Jon, talk us through it.
Okay, so White has this big f pawn on f6, which The only way white is going to win this game is if that pawn provides. And not surprisingly, the first move is 1 f6 to f7, threatening to queen on f8.
Is the problem white to play and win?
That's correct, Natasha, yes. It's surprising that there is a win here, but it is a win. Okay, so black now needs to stop this pawn, and the king can't move across because the knight covers g7 and the pawn covers g8. And the bishop can't stop the pawn. So the rook has got to do the work for black. And rook f6 is a mistake because white would just play bishop b2. And that pins the rook to the king, and there's nothing black can do there to stop f8 queen on the very next move. So that would be quite easy for white to win. So black's defensive resource is to play rook a6 check. And white's got to be very careful here. King to b1 would fail, so bishop takes f5 check. After which the black rook can go back to a8 and stop pawn queening, or indeed the king could just come across and take the pawn. It's trivially winning for black that. So that would be a disaster for white. Equally, if white goes king b2, black would now be able to play rook f6 because the bishop on c1 cannot use the p2 square, and that would be certainly not a win for white. Whether white can draw or not is an issue. Probably he can, but yeah, I guess he can, but it's nowhere near win. So the only way that white can win this game is to play the apparently stupid move, bishop a3, which gives the bishop away with check, but it deflects the rook. So black has to take that. The reason black has to take that, incidentally, just going back a move, Matthew, rook a8 simply doesn't work here because the bishop on c8 is blocking the 8th rank. If the bishop were on any other square and the rook was able to cover f8 that way, that would be easy enough to draw for black, but the bishop blocks that resource. So what black has to take on a3 is the conclusion. And now king b2 is the only move because king b1 would fail to bishop takes f5 with check. So we've got to go to b2. Now white is still threatening to queen here, and black has to be careful. He can't move the bishop because of f8 queen. He can't move the king usefully because of f8 queen. So he's got to move the rook. There's no way of stopping the pawn directly with the rook, so he's got to give a rook check. Now, if he goes rook b3 check, white will go king a2. And now there are no checks except on a3 and b2, and we can just take that. So the king will be on a dark square after taking the rook, and black will lose. So that's why rook b3 check is a failure. So instead of that, black plays a much better move, rook a2 check, which is necessary. Now, we can't take that rook because if we go king takes rook, black can play bishop e6 check and take the pawn on f7, thereby drawing. And we're trying. So after a2 check, we seem to have a choice of king c3 or king c1. And this is perhaps the deepest move of the study. So far, there have been choices, but they've all been fairly clear. A little bit of logic needed to determine what to do, but not great logic, just a limited bit. But here it's a deeper consideration. Either way, black is going to have to play a desperado check to try and save the day. Let's have a look at what happens if we try king c3. Black is going to go rook c2 check, I think. We can't take that because the bishop takes f5 check and then king g7. So we've got to move our king. We can't go to d3 because the bishop takes f5 check and white would lose. And if we go to king d, and if we go king d4, then black has rook d2 check. And this is not good for white's winning chances because black has the move rook d8 and the pawn. And the most white's going to do there is draw, but I don't think we can even do that. So that's why king c3 doesn't win, although it probably draws. And king c1 is the only way to win this position. Okay, so let's look at the position of king c1. Black has a couple of possible checks, I guess. Rook a1 check or rook c2 check. If rook c2 check, we don't take it. We just play king d1 or king d1 for h2. And black doesn't have any useful moves there, I don't think. And white will win. So better for black than that is to play rook a1 check. And now, obviously, if we go king b2, I could just repeating with rook a2 check, so that wouldn't make any progress. And we go back. So we go the other way. We go king d2. Now, if rook d1 check here, we can just take it, and we win. So that's what black has to play rook a2 check. Now we're going to come up the board. If we went king e1, we wouldn't make any progress after rook a1 check. Yeah, going back, I'll show you the main line and then you'll see why that wouldn't have been as good. So we're going king e3, and now rook a3 check. Again, rook e2 check, we just take it. So rook a3 check, king f4, rook a4 check, g5. Now, it looks like we're achieving our aim as white. We're going to queen, but black has a resource here. One of the nice things about this study, rook g4 check, you can see that rook hovering across the board right now. Yeah, one of the nice things about this study is it's not just one side playing all the good moves. Black is having to play some fairly good moves too to keep it in the game and to keep it going. And now another interesting choice for white. Taking the rook is not enough to win. So king takes g4, black plays bishop takes f5 check, we go king takes f5, king g7, king e6, king f8, and this is a well-known setup where it's a draw immediately after king f6 stalemate, and if the king moves away, black takes the pawn and it's king b king. Pretty drawn in my book. So going back to the position, yeah, the rook g4 is correct. White has a choice there. It looks like he could try king f6, looks like he could try king h6, king h5. They all seem possible, but let's look at king h5 first of all, and we'll find that it's not good enough to win because black can play rook g8 here, and there's no way of winning that position. You can end up with king and knight versus king, but that's a standard draw. So going back, that doesn't work. And if we try king f6, this also doesn't work. Black also has rook g8. And here, if we knight e7, black can play probably just rook g8, yes. And again, it's only a draw. You can go knight g6 check and draw, but it's not enough to win. We can't force that pawn back and keep the queen. So going back to the position after rook g4 check, we find that king h5 and king f6 both fail, but king h6 is the right move.
Restricting the black king to the maximum degree.
Yeah, using the white king actively to attack the black king, which was not obvious that it would do at the start of this study when the white king was on a1. Now black doesn't have any useful moves. Rook h4 check's not an option because knight takes h4. Can't move his king. Bishop moves will allow f8 queen and mates very quickly. And so black has to find a clever resource, which he does. He goes rook g8. Which we've seen in some of the other lines. But here, it doesn't quite work, because white has the clever move knight e7. Threatening pawn takes g8 equals queen mate. And the problem for black is that the rook can't move anywhere. Because if the rook moves sideways either to f8 or d8, then knight g6 is mate with the white king on h6, controlling h7 and g7. And that's mate, so that's the end.
That's very, very nice.
If the rook moves down the G file, of course we go F8 Queen and mate immediately after that. So that's not an option. But black has yet another clever move which keeps it going just a little bit longer, and is really the icing on the cake of this study, because without this little spectacular finish, it would be a great study, but with the spectacular finish on top, it's a masterpiece. So bishop e6, apparently saving the day, because it's still stopping the pawn from queening. But this is the final twist in this long tactical flowing study. We take the rook, make a queen.
I'll make a rook, John, I'm afraid.
Don't worry, Matthew. You're welcome to that artistic flourish. Bishop takes g8, of course he has to. And now the beautiful mate, knight g6. And yeah, it's just a very beautiful study in my opinion. It's a masterpiece of a study. I think I wrote in Secrets of Spectacular Chess, which I wrote with David Friedgood, about this study, that if somebody came to this study for the first time and didn't find it beautiful, they may as well give up chess now because they'll have no future in the game. It's something, if you're a chess player and your heart is interested in the beauty of chess, you're going to find that study beautiful one way or another. It's a classic study.
Well, you wouldn't have thought from that starting position that White's forcing to mate with a knight on g6 and king on h6 and no other pieces.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially, I mean, if you start on there and you say, yeah, that the key role is going to be played by a king on h6, that is quite amazing.
It is. It's just a flowing sequence which is very compelling, I think. I don't know how you compare chess art with, I don't know, theatre, cinema, poetry, music. I mean, but this is beautiful chess art to my mind, and I think it, to anyone who appreciates it, it's a significantly beautiful thing. As I say, it's very difficult to compare across genres, but this has a place in the world, and it's a cherished place. Many people will find this beautiful who play chess. Unfortunately, you have to be a decent player to begin with before you really appreciate something like this, because unless you've played a fair amount of chess, you have no conception of how rare such a gem like this is.
Yeah.
How new it would be to get this in a game. And so it's difficult for people to appreciate it unless they've got some chess experience. But once they've got that chess experience, I think most chess players would agree that that is a very beautiful, flowing.
Yeah. Well, John, thank you ever so much for showing us that study. It's a really special study, and it's very nice. Okay, thank you. So you're self-isolating with this study, and you can play it through as many times as you like.
Well, to be honest, I know this study very well now, so I probably wouldn't want to play it through too many times, because I'm familiar with it. But it is certainly the first few times you see it, it's stunning, I think, and everyone should at least look at it once or twice before giving it up. As I say, if I was on a desert island or in self-isolation. In my house, which I am more or less, I'd much rather have a big book of news studies which I've never seen before to keep me busy. But I've got plenty to do here in self-isolation. Chess is a nice companion. Online chess is possible. Looking at beautiful chess games from the past, that's all possible. As is non-chess activity like watching movies and detective stuff and reading books, of course. I'm not frightened of being self-isolated.
No. We're hoping you compose some more beautiful puzzles.
Maybe if I've got time, I'll have a go.
Got time? Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on Chess in the Time of Corona, and look forward to catching up sometime soon.
Well, let's hope we all survive it, and
let's hope we survive.
Come into a normal world again and meet up and enjoy meeting up and socialising and all the rest of what we have previously taken for granted and now we have to wait to do. Hope that we can.
It'll be a good party when we do.
It'll be a big party, yes.
Yeah.
We're all
All
there.
right. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye for now.